Okay, gonna do an alternator replacement. So the first thing I did is come over here, and the corner here is your mark for your negative battery terminal. For some reason they chose to use a black cover with a red plus, so you gotta be careful at night. This is hard to see. This is a positive. They should use the red cover instead of black cover. Anyways, I just used a 10mm ratcheting socket wrench, unscrewed that, and took off my negative battery terminal. That's the first thing you want to do. Then we come over here, and here's the alternator. And so far what I've done is I disconnected this clip here. And the way this works is you can just roll back this plastic, and there's a little lever right there. You just squeeze that lever and it'll allow you to pull the clip off and keep the plastic with the connector there. Next, I see right here, I'm going to grab a 10mm and I'm going to disconnect this connector here, right, and then that should get that off. Okay, so all I did is I used my 10mm socket, took the nut off this, which I got right here. That was on top of there. Now I'll just remove this and set it to the side. Okay, next I'm working on trying to get all these wires off of the alternator so I can remove the alternator. So I'm going to attempt to just remove the brackets instead of trying to get all the clips off there, because when I take this back, I most likely won't get the clips with the new alternator, so I'm going to keep my clips with my car. Anyway, so the first thing I did is I took a socket and removed this 10mm. You should place that right up there, and then this bracket just comes off. And so the next thing I'm going to work on, trying to get, looks like there's a bracket holding on some more wires down below here. So I'm going to work on that. It looks like they're about 8mm sockets, so that's what I'm going to take off next. I removed this side bracket here. I just had this guy holding it on there. I broke it loose with it was going right here. I broke it loose with a wrench because you couldn't get a socket on it because it's too tight, close to the body of the alternator. Then once I got it broke loose, I just put a small screwdriver. Luckily they left the screwdriver and Phillips on the end there. So I took a small Phillips and backed it out. I was having some trouble because it was hitting this plastic housing, and so I just had to work with it. Finally got it past that, and then the bracket came off. And I went ahead and disconnected this connector up here and this connector down here. You just squeeze the tabs and pull those off, and so now the alternator is pretty much all the way clear. I just moved the wire harness out of the way. So next I gotta undo some bolts on the alternator, and then get the tension off the alternator so I can get it removed. Okay, so what I've done now is, right, I can't really see very good, but there's a bolt up top here, and there's another one underneath, pretty much kind of in this corner down here, but I'm not going to get under there. Anyway, so you loosen those two bolts. I believe they're 14mm, and then here's my socket, and just right underneath the tensioner belt, there's a 19mm nut there, or kind of like a bolt more. Anyways, you put the socket on the 19mm deal sticking out there. Now, so my next objective is I got to get a breaker bar, and I'm going to hook it onto that and hopefully be able to pull the tension off the belt so I can get the tension off the alternator. So that's where I'm at right now. That socket's a little bit long, and I got to get a breaker bar, but that's where I'm at. Okay, so I got the belt off finally. It was pretty tough. Let's see if I can get a shot of it. Right here, there's a 19mm socket, or bolt, or whatever you want to call it. Oh no, I'm lying to you. That's not the right one. The socket's still on it. It's back here. Anyways, I got this bar thing hooked onto a socket that I got from AutoZone, but it was a cheap tool, and the extension part of it bent before it was able to pull the piece forward. So I just put a socket in here, managed to pry it off. Had somebody lift off the belt for me, and we got the belt off finally. So now what I'm doing is I just pulled this bolt out here. That just went in right here. And there's going to be another bolt like that, not as big, on the bottom. I'm going to take that out, and that should allow me to take the alternator out. But that belt was pretty hard to get that tensioner to pull it forward, but finally got it. I got my new alternator ready to go here. Just want to show you some things on it. There's that bottom bolt here, and then over here, here's the bigger one, and they'll just go, oops, they will just go, there's a bigger bolt goes up here, a little one down there. So my game plan is to put the alternator in place, hook up all the connectors, and then fight with the belt there. And that's going to be the big challenge there, is trying to get that belt over the new alternator. There's my bolts and stuff. So that's where I'm at. Alright, got the new alternator put in. Some things that I did do is, to make this easier, you want to take off this engine mounting, upper mounting bracket. You just take off these screws here, or these bolts I believe they are, and then this one up here, so there's just 3 in them. This whole bracket will come off. What that will do is give you easier access to the serpentine belt down there. That's probably the hardest part of this, is that serpentine belt. Went to AutoZone, got a special tool. That's probably the easiest way to do it. It was like 30 bucks, and if you keep the tool, they keep the 30 bucks, and if you turn it in, they give you your money back. All it is there's that tensioner down there, and it's just, you put yourself a socket on there. Their tool is basically 2 pieces of flat metal, so that it'll fit right in here without hitting anything. And it gives you leverage so you can pull on the tensioner pulley. And it feels like the tensioner pulley is hydraulically loaded, so when you pull on it, you just want to pull gently, firmly, and slowly, and it'll kind of keep giving slowly. It's like you can feel it. It feels like there's hydraulic fluid against it or something, but you don't want to jerk on it, because it just won't work. And if you pull slowly, it keeps giving over time, and so it's not too bad. If you don't fight, you just got to keep even tension on it, keep pulling it forward, and then you can get your serpentine belt on. And that's about it. And just some final thoughts. A couple of things I did to make this a little easier is I took off this plate right here. It just has 2 bolts holding it on. Takes it off, allows you to get easier access. And again, I just pulled plugs out of the way. And the reason why I took that plate off was so I could take this stuff. Basically, the wrench was wanting to move through this area here a little bit too close, and that just gave me a little easier access. And that stuff just all bolts right back on, so it's really easy to work with. Then we hook up all your electrical connections, and you're good to go. Start right up on the first try. Only other thing to do, watch out for, is if you're doing this at night. For some reason they chose a black cover over the positive terminal, so if your cover terminal is worn, be careful, because this is the positive side. They should have made this whole thing red, in my opinion. But anyway, so that's just something to keep an eye out for. Other than that, it was pretty straightforward. If you can change the distributor cap, you could probably do this job.